it just propelled me because I had that grit in my teeth. I had that grit, I had that grime, and I knew that it was only one denial was not a predictor of my destiny. But that one denial was just keeping me from a place or a path that the Lord didn't want me to be on, because the Lord had a whole different path for me. Because if I would have got hired at UPS, that first job application, I would have never had that grit of being denied. Because that grit of being denied, that grime of being denied, helped me to become a businessman, helped me to become an entrepreneur. Because I told myself, and I told the Lord, I said, I will never be denied again. They are not going to continue to deny me because of my past, because I'm a completely different person. I am a new creation. All things have become new. I am no longer a convicted felon. So I began to start my own businesses. I'm talking about from things as simple as mowing lawns and hauling off trash and cleaning up properties to things as complex as I have 4 or 5 trade degrees. I have a trade in barbering. I'm a licensed barber. I'm a licensed and ordained minister, pastor. I have a trade in horticulture. That's the study of small plants and shrubberies. I almost got my trade in brick mason. I have a trade in culinary arts. I have multiple trades. I have multiple skills that I have obtained as far as on paper. But even above on paper, that grit and that grime of being fired, I'm gonna do it again. That grit in between my teeth propelled me to not just be denied and be satisfied with it. To not think well, I guess this is a predictor of my future. No, I took control of my own future. P2P motivation, here we go. Put this on the screen. Jay. So I was a 16-year-old kid, had just turned 17 years old, and I went to prison. I was sentenced to a 14-year sentence. I was sentenced to a 14-year sentence in prison, but according to the laws in Mississippi, I only had to serve half of that. They call it 30 for 30. So I had to serve 7 years in prison. I had just turned 17. Put this on the screen. I had just turned 17, and I was looking at this big prison sentence, and I didn't have any education. I didn't have any skills. I didn't have anything that would let you believe that I would be successful in my life. You would have thought that a 17-year-old kid spending 7 years in prison, going through this system that the recidivism rates are high. Recidivism is when you're able to leave behind or not return to those things that you came from. And they use this word recidivism, put this on the screen, they use this word recidivism to describe the rate of which someone goes back to prison or stays out of prison. The recidivism rates are low or high, whichever way you want to look at it, when it comes to returning back to prison. The chances are that after you, at a young age, when you look at the statistics, at a young age, if you go to prison with no skills, no education, no big family lineage that's gonna big family business that's gonna take you to the next level when you get out, the chances are that you're gonna continue to go back to prison over and over and over again, and that your life is not gonna be successful. That's what the numbers say. Put this on screen. So the numbers say that my life was not gonna be a success. So how did I go from being this young kid with no future and no hope, where the statistics said that I was gonna be nothing, to being someone who was highly successful in my life, someone who was able to come out of those things that were trying to hold me back because of my own stupid decisions that I made? How did I come out of those things? Put this on the screen. SJESUS. There's the answer. How did I do it? How did I come out of it? How did I win? How am I prospering? How did I become successful and start businesses and do well for myself in my life? JESUS is the answer. And I want to encourage you, no matter what you're going through, I don't care what it is. I don't care what that thing is. I don't care what mistakes you made in your life. The same thing that brought me out of those struggles is the same thing that can and will bring you out of those struggles as well. But you have to put trust in him. You have to put your hope in him. You have to serve him, not just with lip service like the Bible says. Let us not serve with just word and tongue, but also in deed and in truth. We have to not just serve with word, but also with our demonstration. We have to demonstrate God's power. We have to allow God to work, to get all down deep inside of us. Every vein, every artery, every blood cell, everywhere, from the top of your head to the soles of your feet. You have to let God infiltrate. You have to let God, you have to let Jesus possess you fully. And it's not going to look all flashy and fancy right from the beginning. I'm telling you, it's going to be real gritty and grimy at the beginning. You're going to have grit in between your teeth. Have you ever had sand that has got in your mouth, or dirt that's got in your mouth, and you can feel it? You know what I'm saying? You can't, it's not really something you can see, but you can feel it. You can feel that grit. You can feel that grime. But that grit and that grime, those struggles, those things that you have to persevere through, they build you up to where you have substance in your life, because that's what you're going to need. If you want to come out of a situation like I came out of, you are going to have substance. Nothing is going to be easy, but that's to your benefit. I don't care if you were in a physical prison like I was, and you're filling out job applications and they're denying you. Fill out a job application, denied. Fill out another one, denied. Fill out another one, denied. I only filled out one. Literally, after I got out of prison, I filled out one job application. And it was a family friend who was supposed to make sure that I got hired at UPS, but I got denied. I was not denied in my faith or in my hope. It just propelled me because I had that grit in my teeth. I had that grit. I had that grime, and I knew that it was only one denial was not a predictor of my destiny. But that one denial was just keeping me from a place or a path that the Lord didn't want me to be on, because the Lord had a whole different path for me. Because if I would have got hired at UPS, that first job application, I would have never had that grit of being denied, because that grit of being denied, that grime of being denied, helped me to become a businessman, helped me to become an entrepreneur. Because I told myself, and I told the Lord, I said, I will never be denied again. They are not going to continue to deny me because of my past, because I'm a completely different person. I am a new creation. All things have become new. I am no longer a convicted felon. So I began to start my own businesses. I'm talking about from things as simple as mowing lawns and hauling off trash and cleaning up properties to things as complex as I have 4 or 5 trade degrees. I have a trade in barbering. I'm a licensed barber. I'm a licensed and ordained minister, pastor. I have a trade in horticulture. That's the study of small plants and shrubberies. I almost got my trade in brick mason. I have a trade in culinary arts. I have multiple trades. I have multiple skills that I have obtained as far as on paper. But even above on paper, that grit and that grime of being fired, I'm gonna do it again. That grit in between my teeth propelled me to not just be denied and be satisfied with it. To not think I guess this is a predictor of my future. No, I took control of my own future. And at this point, I own multiple businesses. I have multiple pieces of land. I began to invest into real estate slowly now, debt-free real estate. I began to slowly invest in the debt-free real estate. If y'all watch our channel, The Resurrection Ranch, if you're not, you should go over and subscribe to that channel. But I talked about how we bought our second property. Well, it really wasn't our second property. I guess it was our second country property, because before that, we were running a ministry, and I made multiple deals on, I think, 3 or 4 properties that we owned in the city. But this was our second property that we owned in the country. And so that was multiple acres of wooded land that we bought in cash. And I talked about how I bought that land in cash. This is literally what happened. I had $2,700. I took that. See, $2,700 is not enough to buy land, but I had that grit, I had that grime, I had that in between my teeth, for real. But I took that $2,700, even though it's not enough to buy land, I bought a camper with it. Okay, I bought an old riding 5th wheel camper. And that old rotten fifth wheel camper, I fixed up on it a little bit at a time. It didn't take too long. And then we used it for a little while. And then we kind of outgrew it. And our season for owning it had went away. And so I took that fifth wheel camper that I bought for $2,700 and I sold it. And I didn't know I was going to buy land. But I just so happened, once I sold that fifth wheel camper, the land, our second piece of property, not this property, but it's a property right down the road, about 5 minutes down the road, that my mom actually lives on now, because that property sat there for 3 or 4 years and we didn't know exactly what to do with it. We thought we were going to sell it at one point. We thought we were going to do this, thought we were going to do that. But my mom we ended up putting my mom down there so she can live in the country as well and retire in the country. It became her retirement property. And so that $2,700 became a camper. That camper became cash in my hand. We quadrupled the amount that we paid for. We made an extreme profit off of it because it was a nice fifth wheel camper. It just had some water leaks and things like that. And I knew how to, fix those things. And so we took that $2,700 camper and we turned it into that land. And that's like just a small window into that grit and that grind that the Lord gave me, that Jesus, Jesus, that he gave me. This is a part of how I became the person that I am now. It's just those small little unctions, the small leading, those small whispers that the Lord has spoken to me, to where year after year after year I have grown. And by the time I looked up, it's like, man, like this is pretty amazing that at 35 years old I have been able to do. I'm in the position that I'm in now, and I wasted the first 24 years of my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got out of prison when I was 23, and I was just about to turn 24 when I got out of prison, and now I'm 35. And so I wasted 24 years of my life, and within the last 12, 13 years, following Jesus. Because you ask, how did I do it? And the answer is simple: Jesus. He is the answer. And I'm telling you, if you will accept him, and if you will begin to follow him, because just accepting him makes you successful when it comes to spiritual. And also, you have to follow him to be successful spiritually as well. But when it comes to manifesting God's will here on earth as it is in heaven, you have to become a follower of Jesus. You have to be able to do the things that he's asking you to do. And don't think about these big bright things, because I tell people all the time, if you wait to obey when you hear something big and bright, and then when you hear those simple things, you think oh yeah, that's no big deal. I can not do that. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that, so I'm not going to do it. And then you wait for these big bright things, and then you try to obey. It's not going to work. You're not going to have the grit. You're not going to have the endurance. You're not going to have the perseverance. You're not going to have that grind, that edge, that chip that you need to have in order to dig your heels in and be who the Lord wants you to be. So how did I do it? Jesus. How did I go from being a 16-year-old, 17-year-old with no hope, no future, no path that would say I was going to be successful, to being a highly successful 35-year-old? How did I go from wasting the first 24, 23 years of my life to being a 35 going on 36-year-old now who you would never know? You know what I'm saying? You would never know my humble beginnings, but I glory in those humble beginnings. And so how did it happen? How did I make it? How did I prosper? How did I succeed? And don't get this mixed up with a prosperity gospel, because I get those comments here and there about people because we're so bruised and scarred by man-made religion that certain words set us off. It's like I said one time, I got a comment, and it's the word successful and the word win, and those words like that are associated with a certain type teaching. But you think about it, it's and I understand that false teaching, because I've heard it before as well, because the prosperity gospel is false and the poverty gospel is also false. But those words, I told that person, I said, you take the word succeed and you associate that with some type of false teaching. But it's think about what the opposite of succeed is: lose. Do you think that God wants us to lose? No, of course not. But so we can't, and I understand the weariness, because you have a lot of people out there that's trying to do things for selfish gain and all those type of things. And so if you say the same words, which are in the Bible, you say those words and it sets off like alarms. And I can understand that. So we have to be vigilant, and diligent as far as like who we listen to. But the Lord wants us to win. He wants us to be successful. And I'm not talking about some type of fairy tale, lolly-dolly, pixie dust type winning. I'm talking about working extremely hard to do the things that the Lord wants you to do. Like I say, whether that's being a base or whether that's being abound, because I've been in both situations, like Paul said, in my life. And I understand like how to have a little bit of money and be successful, and have a lot of money and be successful. Have a little bit of resources and be successful, and have a lot of resources and be successful. You have to be willing to obey the Lord, because your success is not in the amount of money that you have. Listen to this, but your success is tied up in your obedience. Are you obeying the Lord or not? That's what makes you successful. The amount of money in your bank account, the cars or the houses or the land, none of those things even matter if you're not being obedient to the Lord. And none of those, and obedience to the Lord does not guarantee any of those things as well. But I want you to be successful when it comes to obeying the Lord and doing the things that He tells you to do. And I want you to enjoy, if the Lord does bless you, giving to others and being fruitful in that way. But with that being said, in today's video here, I think my point is clear. How was I able to come out of the pit that I was in? How was I able to come out of those dark places that I was in? How was I able to go from being this 16, 17-year-old that had no future, no hope, this person that people wouldn't even hire, to being a person that runs successful businesses, to being a person that is being obedient to the Lord, to being a person who has a fruitful and abundant life? And the answer is simple: Jesus. P2P Motivation. See y'all on the next one.